Hello, everyone, and welcome to Canadians with Disabilities and Their Allies. My name is Brent. I'm the host for the show, and today I am really excited to actually announce that I have Lethabo Segudla from South Africa joining me. Now, the Lethabo is way in South Africa. I'm on the west coast of Canada, British Columbia, and so I'm not gonna hop, skip, and a jump across the pond. I'm quite a ways away from you, but welcome, sir. It's a great pleasure having you on my show today.
Yeah, thanks, Brent, for welcoming me into the group. I mean, into the I can create a group though because we are three guys though.
we're global today. We've gone
global. Yeah. Yeah. Anywhere around the world right now, you're watching the live segment with me and Lethabo on, and welcome. Sir, it's wonderful having you join us on this great podcast that we do on a regular basis, and having people on here with lived experience or people with disabilities, or someone that has a disability. And for you, sir, I'd like to know a little bit more about Lethabo and what kind of disabilities that affect your life. If you want to dive into talking about yourself or anything that you're going through in your part of the world.
Okay. I will start by saying good evening and good morning to you guys.
Good evening, good morning.
Well, I just want to say, first of all, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Lethabo Segudla. Born in Pretoria, South Africa, in the capital city, obviously, as I said, in the township called Mamelodi. Yeah, that's where the craziness lives, as people say. So yeah, I was born with multiple disabilities. Well, I was born blind and born with I was deaf actually. Also had some other disability complications as well. Yeah, so actually I don't see a lot. So sorry about that. Actually, it's my sister. So yeah. So yeah, as I was saying that obviously I actually I was born also in 1997. And yeah, and I went to a school called Pretoria Schools for I think it was a school for cerebral palsy, and then I think I ended up in the third grade. That was back in 2008. Then they transferred me to Prince Hof School, the school for the blind, back in 2009 when I was doing my fourth grade, and then that's when I started doing a lot of high school. Actually, yeah, my high school career started obviously in that school. Actually, from grade 4, grade 5, grade 6. Then that's when obviously it started from grade 7. Actually, my seventh grade. Yeah, that's when obviously the high school career started. And after a short time, I think when I think it was in grade, I think it was 2013. I think I was doing I think it was, oh yeah, in my eighth grade. Yeah, that's when obviously actually my mother was expecting my sister at the time, and it was so stressful at the time, but well, thank God she's also here. And also in terms of my disability, the other thing is, well, I do have also epilepsy. I'm epileptic. That's one thing I can really say on that, because to people, I don't usually say much. I just only talk about my blindness and how it became to be that I am visually impaired. And yeah, because usually I used to go to churches when I was a toddler, and to be baptized there and pray for me and all that stuff. But unfortunately, it didn't work, and I broke my left arm. And I got burn marks as well on it. So obviously that's when obviously the operation started on my arm and also my eyes as well to restore sight. But still, you know, I still can't see far, so I just just see close. So but right now, if people would ask me which screen reader I'm using, which is the Microsoft Narrator, so I'm using that. Okay. Other than that, I'm not using any other screen readers than Narrator itself. That's all about me, my Jimbos.
Okay. Yeah, I was just gonna say it's kind of interesting. It feels like 6 degrees of separation because you're in Victoria in South Africa, and
not Victoria,
and it's your capital city, but it's also the capital city here in BC. And Brent lives in Victoria.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I have cerebral palsy, and you went to a school with cerebral palsy, so
yeah.
It feels like 6 degrees of separation a little bit.
Yeah, I'm in the capital city of British Columbia, Canada, and you're in the capital city of South Africa. Wow.
But they're both Victoria, so there you go.
2 capitals.
2 capitals halfway around the world. Yeah.
Yeah, 2 capitals, though they collide.
Yeah.
So Lethabo, so I had Aaron Richmond on in some previous podcasts I've had on.
Yeah, sure.
So could you tell me how do you know Aaron Richmond? Wonderful person. We got him on here before, and
because that's how you became connected to us is through Aaron.
Yeah, true.
Yes.
So that's another 6 degrees of separation, or what's the joke they have? 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. Have you heard that joke? 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon.
Well, just to answer that to you, Brent. I just want to say that firstly, when I met Aaron, there were several groups that I'm in with Aaron. So what I can say is like the thing is, actually I met him. There are like several groups that I am with him that I can mention, but one I will mention. Actually, there's one that I can mention, but there's another one that I can mention because it's under. So there's one that I can mention because it's under another organization called One Vision Movement, and which is the company that I'm working for, which is Hollywood Universe. It's under the same organization, and it's a global organization, obviously. And actually, I met him there, and well, we also work together. There's what you call a drama series that we do. It's called Lawbreakers, where he acts as a lawyer in that drama series, and that's when obviously I met him. And also the podcast that I did, that was back in November 2021, but I can't remember the exact date because that time it was fairly new to me because I just collided with a guy on Facebook, and that's when obviously I started. We started to converse with each other, and then that's when obviously he invited me to his podcast, and well, after that, then he told me like, look, you have a radio voice, then why don't you try a radio station called UVC Radio? And then that's when he said, like, okay, maybe I might try it, but even for now, I'm not ready as yet to go there because there's a lot of things that are happening there, because I've been listening to actually there are 2 shows actually that I love the most, which is Tell It Like It Is and Extra Straight Talk. So it's just that I couldn't watch it. I couldn't listen to it this morning because it started a bit late. I think around 2 a.m. in the morning. At that time, I was going to bed. So yeah, so that's one thing I can say. And I'm also a radio DJ, a presenter actually. Yeah, so it's.
But do you
don't know about me? Yeah.
Do you do your you do a radio show yourself, don't you, or do you? I thought you told me that you yourself do a radio show, or is it just Do you just do? You said you do some acting and voiceover stuff as well, right?
Yeah. I do some voiceover acting as well. Let me just close the door. Yeah, let me just close the door because somebody just opened it. Yeah, so I do voiceover acting obviously as well. So I just forgot to mention that.
Okay.
Yeah, because a lot of people
do you do any impersonations?
Yeah. Say again?
Do you do any impersonations?
Yeah.
People.
Well, well, I can do much. Impersonations, I do it for fun. I don't do it on
Well, do it for us. Do it.
Yeah, you could do it for us.
Hi, you. Okay, let me do it again. Hi, Brent. How are you? I hope you guys are good. And how is Canada? I hope you are doing very well. I'm not good. This voice is just not for me, but I'm just doing it as it is.
So
yeah.
Sounds like Oscar the Grouch. Maybe.
Yeah. I want cookie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I do quite a lot of impersonations like for fun. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to acting, I just use my normal voice. I don't use any impersonations. But if they need any impersonations, obviously I would gladly do that.
Because you're bigger than life anyway, so you don't need to fake it, right?
Yeah, there you are.
You said something.
I guess that's how it ties into High Energy FM.
Yeah, true. But with High Energy FM, I'm not too sure. I'm not too familiar with it because I haven't listened to it yet. It's just that I follow them on Twitter most times because I am on their community as well. But I haven't followed anything as yet because I haven't been on Twitter. I can say for 2 to 3 months since I have also set up my Twitter account on my laptop because it was quite I can say it's quite a process because sometimes it would get me a lot of trouble.
Yes.
Yeah, obviously when you're using a laptop or a computer, sometimes it just lose track of your information sometimes, but you have to tell it to remember the things that you just taught it the first time,
Yeah. Tweet on the Twitter.
Yeah.
You said something earlier, just in passing about going to church and having people pray over you, and that's an interesting thing for me as well because I go to church as well, and I remember one year I went to a church retreat at another church I used to go to, and one of the things they had at the retreat was it was for another it was just for like they had these sessions where you could learn about certain things. So I went to this one session, and all of a sudden somebody came up to me and said, can I pray for you for healing, like that you'll be like just spontaneously healed of your cerebral palsy, and that really kind of bothered me, honestly, because I had my first wife, we when I first met her, she took me to this other retreat that was in California, and it was run by a doctor. He was actually a medical doctor, and it was an interesting thing because it was basically a church for people with disabilities. It was a ministry based. It was a ministry of people with disabilities. And the thing that was cool about him, his name was Dr. Ken Tittle, and he's actually passed away now. He ended up getting brain cancer. But the really cool thing about his ministry was, he really thought there was a big problem with churches that really put the emphasis on this idea that you're broken, like you're somehow that disability is a sign of brokenness, and you needed to pray for that to be like. It's not to say that I don't believe that healing is possible, but he said the thing is that you should have it's basically healing on the outside, and that your disability shouldn't be seen as a weakness or a problem. Because he said the thing about a lot of churches today is that they think, well, if you're not suddenly spontaneously healed, there must be something wrong with either my prayer for you, or there must be something wrong with me as a person, that somehow God doesn't see me worthy of being healed, or you know what I mean? And
I know.
And so that's just an interesting thing that I dealt with, because you know, when, like I said, when I went to that other retreat where somebody just said, I need to pray over you, it was really awkward, because he said, you know, get rid of your crutches and just start walking. And of course I can't do that, but he made me get up and just say, take your crutches away and start walking. And it was really, really awkward. Like, you know, and it's not like I said, like, it's not like I don't believe that healing is possible, but at the same time, I don't believe that God's going to heal me on the spot, because I believe that we all have disabilities for a reason, and it's kind of part of our journey. And the big part is to focus on the inside of a person, right? Not on the outside. That our disability is part of who we are, and it's not a fault to be fixed, right? I just thought it's probably I went down a garden path, but I just thought it was an interesting thing to talk about. Yeah,
interesting on that. So in your country and South Africa, Lethabo, how are people with disabilities treated by their government? Is that accessibility wise?
Hey, that is something, that's something that you just stepped on the foot. I mean, what I can say is, our government is just, not meeting the requirements that the people with disabilities are looking for. When it comes to jobs, they said 2%, right, for employment. Then they failed. Now they said 7%. They also failed. So for me, it just seems to be useless, because like even now, that's why I just said to myself that let me just secure something that I can just do. I can just use my talent, because there's no way where I can use my talent, because like I mean, even now when you talk about social grants, it's something that usually people, they don't, especially the government itself, I can say partly they do good, partly they don't do good, because they involve politics with it. And that's one thing I can really say on that. And when it comes to our social grants, the money that we get right now, because the last time I remember it was 1,980 before they raised it to 2,080 rand, obviously. So it's still quite a long way to go before we get what we want, especially because like as people with disabilities, we want employment, because even the employment rate when it comes to people with disabilities are higher than expected.
So just over $2,000 then a month then?
No, not $2,000, 2,000 rands.
Oh, 2,000 grams. Okay.
Yeah, so that's one thing I can safely say, because even when it comes to housing, it's much challenging. I know people who are like, I can say some of my friends and my mentor, they live close to where I live, but they're just a bit, maybe a few kilometers away. But in where they stay, some houses they have electricity, some houses don't have electricity, so it's a challenge. And even for transportation as well, it's something else, especially for a person who's using a wheelchair. Taxis,
the reason we had to change the time that you came on, because you said they had rolling blackouts where you are too. So.
Yeah, but today I think we can go a bit longer. If
yeah, but that's just so people are aware that that's a potential issue as well for you there, right?
Accessibility wise,
accessibility wise, that couldn't be a big thing for a lot of people with disabilities to all of a sudden be in a blackout.
yeah.
Oh yeah, it really just changes the technology accessibility wise.
Now you said, now I don't know if I heard you correctly. Did you say something like 7% of people with disabilities are having employment? Because if you did, that figure actually almost matches up with here in BC, doesn't it? It's only about say 10% or something that have full-time employment. I think they said for people with disabilities, only about 10% like full-time.
Pretty close to that, yeah.
I think it's about 10%.
Yeah, so well, your percentages, guys, it's nearly the same as ours, because what I can say is, like, when it comes to employment, they employ just a few, and some others they land in learnerships, in which learnerships sometimes they don't provide much help or much needed relief, you know. So imagine attending a learnership for 12 months. After 12 months, then there's no placement, nothing. I've been a victim of that kind of sort, like back in 2019, 4 years back. So I mean, imagine starting a learnership in January, and then all of a sudden, okay, come December the same year, then they don't even say to you that, okay, guys, you'll get jobs or whatsoever. You know, it's something that they just don't do, you know. And with another another program that I was in last year, it was supposed to be, I think, a 4-month program, but they extended it because of they were not paying the way they were supposed to, and there was like controversies when it comes to that, and but first month when we started, okay, they paid 4,500 rand. There was the starting amount what they had done, paid, and then the second month they did that, but the third month, that's when the problem started. And when it comes to other things, okay, fine, they wanted us to buy like refurbished laptops, which is this one that I'm using. And when it comes to stuff like that, they don't even offer support for people with disabilities. And I told them that.
So they expect you to buy all the stuff, and then maybe you'll get a job from it, right? It's like, buy all the stuff, and then maybe we'll give you a job. Is that right? Did I have that right?
Yeah. So when I bought it, okay, fine, it was working well, but it needed to be set up with a Wi-Fi. What you call this? The Wi-Fi Wi-Fi card and all that stuff, but I didn't have that. It's when obviously I was just so stressed out, so I had to use what you call this? I had to use an Ethernet cable, and sometimes you wouldn't even find that. And also not forgetting that they have to like give us some support when it comes to that, but they didn't. It's something that they didn't even do. Because I mean, it's something that when you say someone has to buy something, and then you have to give support, like technical support, because at least just to make the laptop run smoothly, like optimize the software and all that stuff. But they didn't do that, And one lecture told us
having the assistant to help you, I mean, with that, the adaptiveness, like to
it's
accommodate you.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I don't know if you remember, Brent, it wasn't that long ago where even here in BC, we kind of had, for lack of a better term, we kind of had kind of sweatshop things set up for people with disabilities. Remember, it was only a few years ago where they had programs for people with disabilities where you could have them kind of do assembly line work that was really simple, and they would pay them like, I think it was like $6 an hour or something.
That's right.
To put things in bags or something like that, like some really repetitive kind of assembly line work where they're just kind of putting things in bags or whatever. I don't know, like some really simple kind of repetitive assembly line stuff. And it was basically a sweatshop thing for people with disabilities. And then they kind of said, well, maybe this isn't the best look. And so they closed them down, which is a good thing, because you know, you're kind of devaluing a person when you say, well, this person's only worth $6 of doing repetitive like work that nobody else will want to do, you know. They said, well, you know, so the government was supporting these things, and then I think they've kind of walked back a lot from that type of thing, but it wasn't that long ago. It was only like a few years ago they were doing that.
Yeah, it's all about policies, right? It's choices, policies, and decision making that I find a lot of these stuff is PR, you know, PR announcements, right? And you know, it's whatever makes it the governments look good, right? But at the same time, is that governments around the world, they have to work with the person with disability, like give them the adaptive equipment that helps them in whatever they may want to do, or to better assist them and work with their disability, because adaptive equipment or any kind of system that is in place, it's part of who they are, right? It's who their identity is, who they are, and recognize them rather than just kind of shutting it off, going, okay, it's not they're a burden to society, not our problem, right? I don't know, like, how is that in South Africa? Like, do you feel that sometimes maybe or maybe not, how the government looks at that for you?
Well, I can say this to my perspective, because yes, our government, they want to help us, but they don't know how, right? Just that sometimes when it comes to politicians, you know, some politicians, okay, they support that, but some politicians they don't. But it becomes another aspect of who's going to be holding this. Who's like I'm just saying in my language, who's going to hold this? Who's going to do this? Who's going to, you know, it's something that, you know, people are just not willing, you know, they're not willing to support people with disabilities, you know. Even ourselves as people with disabilities, sometimes if we need help, we just need to come forward and get help. Because now I read that our president Cyril Ramaphosa was, I think he declared, I think there's something about disabilities, I think in his office, the president's office, actually, I can put it that way. And what I can say is something, I don't know if they're going to implement that or what's going to happen, because like I see they just gradually doing that through Department of Community Safety, where I remember I went to a event. I think it was a business workshop in another township, which is, I think, far from where I am. And the time when I went there, I only found out that it was not only a workshop of a business. So people were raising the issues about crime, about accessibility, but about accessibility was something, obviously, that was the top of the agenda, you know, if I can put it that way, because as I was saying earlier, that when it comes to transportation, it's another issue, because somebody like, if I can make an example with Neil, let's say if he comes to South Africa and then he's waiting for a taxi, let's say maybe it's a Quantum, maybe Toyota Quantum, or maybe it's maybe an Uber or anything like of that sort. Then if you have to get in, they will just say no, we can't take people with wheelchairs, and which is not good. And sometimes when we arrange meetings or events, we make sure we also also invite people who owns taxis, taxi owners and taxi associations, but they never pitch up, you know? They never pitch up. That's one thing I know for sure.
Yeah.
Wow. You know,
there's one. Yeah.
That's why. Sorry, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah. And also, I just want to say that when it comes to buses, with buses, it's much better because we have accessible buses.
Oh.
Like, yeah, like I can say the buses that we have, we use municipal buses most of the time. Like when we go to events, let's say if we go to Yesteres or we go to Social Move, we go to like anywhere in Pretoria, we use only municipal buses.
Sounds like your Victoria is better than Brent's Victoria.
Oh.
For
buses, I mean.
That's the only one.
Well, that's one thing I can say, but Victoria, though, guys, it's big, guys. It's big. That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm saying that, like, I'm naming the township so that you guys can understand how big Pretoria is, because Pretoria, it's more like, it's more like almost like United States, but in a different perspective. Like let's say, for example, it's our own New York, Yeah, it's our own New York. Because I mean, if you're a New Yorker, you know the places, but if you're Pretorian, then which means you know the places. So that's why I'm saying. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Hence I'm saying that Pretoria is big. That's why I'm saying that you have townships like Mamelodi, Mabopane, Soshanguve, Garangua, Atteridgeville. You have there's a lot of places here. There's a lot of places, because like the other places that I don't even know, but some places I know, some places I don't know. I don't even know. I haven't went to other places or something like that. But it's something that when you come to South Africa, when you say, okay, I'm going to Pretoria, they would see, oh, this guy is going to the Union Building, which is the office it's the place where the president's office is residing. That's where it is. So when people are saying, okay, I'm going to the Union Building, obviously I'd say, okay, you're going to town, okay, fine, because obviously in town, obviously we have Church Square. There's a lot of like people actually, they use like old street names. They don't use the new ones. Like usually they don't use the new ones. For what reason, I don't know, but that's one thing I can really say. But when it comes to accessibility, when it comes to other people, like people with disabilities, sometimes it can be a bit difficult, especially for visually impaired people. Even for myself, I don't use a cane. Like, for people, if they would ask me, okay, do I use a cane? It's like, okay, no, I don't use a cane, because, I mean, I had to inquire to the South African Guide Dogs Association about it. So I'm still waiting on them, if they still going to train me for that, because I mean, my eyesight can be a bit, brutal sometimes, because in the dark, though, it's just traumatic experience, because like you have to navigate through, like I have to go to my room or come out of my room and then go to another room. Then you have to like switch on the lights, and sometimes I have to use my phone when it comes to that. Like it's a daily struggle for me, because it's something that
a couple things you said is that I can relate to, and I think everybody in Canada, across Canada, can relate to is the importance of firstly, the importance of self-advocating or just advocating for yourself.
Sure.
Because I think you made a reference that that government sometimes doesn't know what to do, right? So the onus is on the person with the disability to step forward and start advocating for themselves,
for himself.
And I mean, I've always done it, but the thing about employment too is, the other thing is that doesn't get enough airplay, I think, is the for people that do get employed that have disabilities, there's a lot of retention there. There's a lot of loyalty, like employee loyalty from people with disabilities, where like it was the same for me too. Like when I got my first big job with working for the provincial government, like I was super loyal to them. Like I wanted to do the very best that I could. And you know, they were really good to me, and so I wanted to be really good to them. And you know, I think because there's been studies where they talk about employee loyalty, and they say the employee retention and loyalty is like super high among people with disabilities. Like that people with disabilities will stay with the job longer, will stay with employers longer than people without disabilities.
True. That's true.
And you know, with the having adaptive equipment and working with the employee in a company, rather than just saying like one size fits all for you know, say, oh well, people with disabilities, you know, this is one size. Well, no, you have to work with the individual because their needs are maybe different than another person with a disability. It's like saying, well, here's a mobility scooter. Oh, there you go. Well, no, that doesn't fit that person. That has to fit exactly like for Neil, for you. Like, I mean, that's an extension off of who you are. And so somebody coming along and just saying, here's a mobility scooter for you. Well, it doesn't always fit. So you have to work with that person and whatever job it is, or if it's education, you got to work with that individual, give them the tools, to give them the supports that they need. If it comes down to anything in life, you have to work with the situation. And then, you know, like self-advocating is so important, to stand up for what you believe in and for what you want to see changed.
But I also think it's important to really have that open dialogue with your employer too. Like, like whenever I had job interviews, for example, like I would always like fully disclose the nature of my disability and exactly what I could and could not do. And I made sure, like, I don't know if it's the same in with you in South Africa, but here there's this kind of unspoken thing where employers can't ask during interview, they can't ask you anything about your disability because that's considered discriminatory. So unless I, as a person with a disability fully disclose on my own, the employer can't ask anything. So, and I think that's kind of doing everybody a disservice. If I don't disclose and then the employer doesn't ask about it, then we're both going to walk away from the table not knowing anything about what I can and cannot do, right?
I remember on an application, they used to say, you know, do you have a disability? You know, or are you a person with a disability? So that's why we're kind of wondering, like in South Africa, like, do they do that? Like, I mean, when I say do they do that, is that written on an application form?
That common practice for
just to answer that one, what I can say is sometimes it depends. It depends because like if you have to apply for a job, then it becomes another thing, because like you have to state on your resume that okay, disability, you have to say okay, my disability is this and this and this. But they would also say that you have to provide your what you call proof of disability. And sometimes you know, it's another thing.
It requires a doctor's note or something.
Yeah, it does.
For an employment opportunity.
Say again.
For every employment opportunity, you have to give a doctor's authority on the nature.
True.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Yeah, because you have to what you call this? You have to provide everything, every document that you have, like your doctor's appointment. I mean, your doctor's letter, your doctor's what you call note that you have a disability. You know, because even for me, like I mean, if they say okay, fine, you have to like you have to like if you have to apply, you have to bring this and this and this and this. And also they also I can say they also say to you that okay, fine, you have to attach your proof of disability, you know. And sometimes, well, for me, I do.
Is that only?
But,
can I clarify that? Is that only for employment opportunities that are targeted for people with disabilities, or is that for any
actually,
employment?
Any employment.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, because even for learnerships, it applies to that as well, because they want to know this person is he or she does this person have a disability or not, because that's how the the regulation itself says, because I mean,
so Lethabo, so you have to basically prove that you have a disability for them to accommodate.
Every time you apply for a job, no matter what kind of job it is, even if it isn't targeted towards people with disabilities, you have to prove it every time with the doctor's
with the doctor's letter.
Wow.
Wow, that's
because it like if it's an online thing, obviously you would have to do it online, and then but they don't do it online. They just say okay, email or stuff, and then they would say okay, we will call you, or we will email something, then okay, fine, you have to come or something like that. But
what would you like to see changed on that?
Yeah.
What would you like to see changed on that? Would you like to see them change the government change the laws on that, or like to maybe amend that, or like what's your view on that?
No, actually, for me, when it comes to that, I would like them to change everything when it comes to disabilities, like even the requirement itself, even the age restrictions. Because when it comes to learnerships, they would say 18 to 29 or 18 to 35 or 18 to 28. And sometimes for other people, they need opportunities, but they can't get opportunities because of like the major issue is the age restrictions. And second thing is like they have to say that they have to just hire people who have disabilities, like the way Neil was saying that he was advising people or interviewing people who have disabilities, different disabilities. They should hire people like that, you know, because for me,
like here in Canada and here in BC, they have what are some jobs, not all jobs, but a lot of jobs, they have what are called quotas, right? And you can speak on this, Brent, a little bit, but a lot of the jobs have quotas of say 10 or 15%. They have to hire 15% of whoever they hire has to match a certain minority group, right?
True.
That's right, Neil. There are certain quotas that have to be met by employers. Now, with that being said, they have to accommodate their disabilities, right? So, working with the individual to make sure that they've got all the tools in the toolbox are all there, the tools to work with the individual. Now, on a personal experience, like this is going back years now, but it's I remember a company that I worked for, or I was trying to work for, should we say? And they said to me, "No, I'm sorry, I can't hire you." Well, okay, well, why not? Oh, well, because your disability is going to get in the way, and it's going to slow down the productivity with our corporation. So, unfortunately, I don't think you'd be a good fit with our corporation. Well, I mean, you talk about your self-esteem. You know,
oh god.
and I wouldn't take no for an answer. Like I mean, I was in high school at the time, right? So this is going back years. I mean, it's making me feel old. But and of course, you know, all the kids in my class were all getting these jobs at this company, and I well, why didn't I get it? Well, because you'd be too slow, Brent. You're just too slow. You may know that's what you want to do, but they said in reality, unfortunately, there's reality between being too slow of be able to do the job, or we just can't accommodate your disability. So, well, I mean, I contacted, I got the school to contact the company, and they said, oh, next thing you know, I got a phone call. Hey, you know what? We can offer you a job. How does that work? Well, yeah. I mean, wow.
That's another miracle.
Yeah. But you know what I did?
That's another miracle. And I just want to say, I just want to see,
go ahead.
Yeah, and there's one thing that I want to say is, like, even like the way you were saying, Brent, with I don't know what you call it, coders or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I was saying, like, as I was saying, like, obviously, like, here in South Africa, when it comes to other like jobs, they have to hire people who can at least accommodate people with disabilities, especially blind people. You know, blind people sometimes when they have to use like laptops or desktops, like if they have to load JAWS or NVDA, you know, it's something else. Sorry about that.
I threw it back and I said, thanks anyway. I don't want the job, just to make them really, really bad, right? But I had the same problem in college. In one course I took, there was other courses were perfectly fine, but there was one course in particular that I took, and the college says, yeah, unfortunately, you're not able to keep up with the class for reading stuff fast enough, Brent. So we can't be making photocopies, right? They just go to photocopy machines and enlarging it big enough to print. So like that's going to cost us too much money. So why don't we get a big giant machine? And it was lovely. I mean, I wish I could have taken it home with me. It was a good $15,000 machine, and it was like, you know, state of the art. I said, I want that for home. Sorry, as long as you are in class, it has to stay here. You can't take it home with you. But there's because great. Go ahead.
So I wanted to ask you something, Brent. Like, what kind of machine was it?
It was actually it was just for enhancing just the name of it. It was a CT. It was a
just basically a magnifier thing.
Yeah, magnifier.
Oh, magnifier.
And, you basically put the paper underneath it, and it just blows up on the screen. Well, one problem was the font size was too big, and the machine that there was two different types.
Bigger.
Yeah, there was two different types. The machine that they gave me was great. I mean, I couldn't worry about, but the letters were too big, so it was actually taking up too much of the screen. So I would lose track of where I was on the page.
Yeah.
And there was no way.
Kind of like the president of the United States on the teleprompter.
Yeah.
Doing a speech and losing track of where he is.
Yeah, but it was like a teleprompter. Yeah.
Okay.
Describe to people that are watching this. And so the font was too big. I had no way of lowering it down. And I said, well, how about another one? Well, we're not just going to go buy you another one, Brent. I mean, this is what's in the class. Use it. So they got frustrated with me, and that was it. So,
oh my goodness.
You know, it's interesting. I've talked quite a bit before about my work with the Disability Foundation, my 6 years there, and being involved with doing the employment program for them with people with disabilities. And I was kind of an advocate and a helper for people. I would meet with people with disabilities and kind of help them, match up employment opportunities, or just basically coach them in different things to get them employment ready. One of the clients that I had was a woman in Surrey, and she had a fairly significant visual disability impairment, where like quite significant. I think she could basically only see more or less just shadows, and when she would see me, she could make out my face, but I'm pretty sure my face was more or less just a blur to her. But she was still pretty good at when she came into the door, like we would meet for coffees and stuff all the time. That's how I would meet with people. And when she would come in the door of the coffee shop, for example, she could tell right away it was me, kind of thing. And so she had some vision, but one of the things I learned about her is she spent basically her whole life hiding her, just like completely hiding her disability, like her blindness, where she wouldn't she wouldn't disclose nothing to her employer. Like, so the employer had no idea that she couldn't see, and she would just hide it. And there was one last job that she had, where she talked about it, where she had to do a lot of reading, and she just had to fake it. She had to fake that she was able to read. Like, she was faking it all the time. That she couldn't read anything, right? And she was just faking that she was reading this thing. And eventually she was found out, and it became this big thing, right? It just blew up into this big thing where she was kind of found out. But then she realized, she it's just, I think it's about 3 or 4 years ago now, maybe a bit longer. She finally got a guide dog, and she's kind of embraced her blindness now, where she realizes how much easier it is to be honest and say, I'm blind, I need accommodation. It's better than lying about it, and because you actually she made it harder on herself. She realized that was so much harder on herself to hide it and to fake it, and to say that she had no problem. She was faking it her whole life with employers, and the employers had no idea.
Yeah, and it's all about accommodating, and some people will say, they could say, well, from what I hear in the community, is about acceptance. It's about how society will accept them. And there was a lady who I see at the bus stop every so often. She's got a identification cane that she uses for getting around mobility wise, and it's quite neat. There's different sizes for mobility canes. Some of them have big balls on the end of the cane. Helps them to navigate. And so I was talking to her about the exact same topic one day, about acceptance in the community, about transit, about accessibility wise. And she says, sometimes I don't even use my cane, because then people think, the blind person, they get up, here, you need to sit down. She goes, no, I was fine standing. And I went, so it's all about acceptance. She goes, well, it's on how the person perceives that. And I'm glad that you mentioned that, Neil, because that's how she kind of saw herself for many years, was, like I just, just pretending that, she was just didn't need any help, like use a cane to get around, and she found that she did need that, but she thought she'd be treated differently. And so she says in her mind that, I'll just pretend that I don't need this. Nobody could really tell that she had a huge visual impairment with her eye condition that she has. Like, she could only see tunnel vision, and I didn't even realize that. Like, because there's different severities of different conditions, right?
True.
Like for myself, I'm very fortunate. My condition is rated on got a 1 out of 10. Like, mine's stable, right? So there's different severities of it, and so I had an operation when I was a youngster, and they made it stable so that it's not going to get worse. It's not going to get better. It's going to stay the same, and that's just part of my identity, who I am. And everybody's disability is different.
True.
For me, the people are like, well, you can get around really well. Yes, I can, and I'm very fortunate for myself. And I love doing my breaking with Brent, because it's like adventure. It's a little like adventure on the go, and they're comical, but they're serious at the same time. For me, a small print is an obstacle for me. I work with it.
Same as me, actually.
Yeah, I work with it every day, and like there's different fonts that I just cannot blow up, and I'm like, damn it, So I for me, like, I don't know, maybe you can describe for yourself too. What works good is, for me, if I can't blow something up, I get major eye strain if I have to read it for a period of time, because the contrast of the screen. So I use a text to voice, and I find it's actually really, really useful.
Oh. Well, okay, for me, I can really say that, I use a screen reader, as I said, narrator screen reader, which is a Windows thing. Obviously, it comes with Windows, obviously. And for me, obviously, same thing as you said, Brent, that small print, it's not, obviously, for me, it's not viable. That's one thing I can say on that, because sometimes you just have to, like, say that, let's say for example, maybe you want to use let's say for example, if you're using a laptop or desktop, then you have to use like JAWS, or you have to use NVDA. And most of the time, like when I'm on WhatsApp, I could hear people saying, okay, my NVDA is like this and this and this, my JAWS is like this and this and this and this. But I've never heard people talking about narrator, because I mean, because when you buy a laptop, sometimes you get narrator and you just get used to it, you know. But for me, I just think that narrator for me it's a good one. And well, text to speech, I've never used it. Maybe I might try that, but it's something that I might maybe research about it first before I use it, because I mean I don't know much about it. But also I think Windows does have text to speech feature, but I haven't used it yet. And obviously, yeah, when it comes to like mobility, obviously, like I can move around, but sometimes my condition obviously can deteriorate a bit just for a while, and then after that, then it becomes something else. Like I might feel like, okay, I might need maybe some mobility training. Even now, I'm still craving for some mobility training even now, because I mean, because like now it's nighttime, and sometimes obviously when it's dark, then it's just pitch black for me. Like I can't really see that much, because obviously they have, like, I know for some people who say, okay, they are night blind, it's either they are like they have a condition called RP, which is yeah, which is something that obviously they should have diagnosed me with, but I don't know what happened. Because they just said, okay, low vision or poor vision, but they didn't say I have RP, because obviously if I had RP or something else. But for other people, I mean, for people sometimes, like for me, even they just said, okay, you can't wear glasses. It's like, okay, but for me, it's kind of scary, because I mean, I use my laptop quite a lot, and
well, for sure.
yeah, I use my phone, I use my laptop quite a lot these days, so for me though, it's just something else.
Lethabo, like when I was born, I all I could see apparently was shadows. I don't remember it. I was just way too young, but yeah, I mean I could see shadows, and I used to walk in the walls, like until I was young. And I actually do remember that, just vaguely remember going to go grab a door to open the door handle, and I'd walk into it, like I'd be seeing like some double vision, like because my eye condition was not really good. And so yeah, like the severities of just accessibility wise. Well, of course my mom didn't know, like she brought me up as a single mother, and so she knew like there was serious problems, and I'd complain like, well, why is there two doors, which door do I go through? And she's like, well, there's only one door, Brent. And I'm like, oh, okay, so I guess I picked the right one or the left one. She goes, oh geez, like so it's like double vision, right?
True.
And so over time, like for me, like I was basically kind of segregated away in classes, like saying, oh well, we need to teach him how to type. We need to put him into a separate room because we don't want him in the same classroom as the rest of the class, because he'll get picked on. He'll get picked on. And I remember hearing from a distance class, well, why can't he be in here with us? And and that's just how unfortunately our education system was way back when, and nothing's really changed a lot. Like it's about accommodating different people with disabilities of especially like the autism spectrum. Wow, like it's and they're still fighting that part. They're fighting like visual impairment. People are blind. It's all about accommodating and listening to their teachers' aides, like the people that help people with disabilities, and listening to them and listening to the actual person with a disability. What works good for them? Like what would you like to see changed, and work with them? And that goes with employment. Same thing. Accommodating and people with disabilities, like anywhere in the world, like it's kind of like exactly what what you described, Neil, and like Lethabo, like it's just just put it out there and just don't worry about people not accepting who you are. If they don't accept who you are, that's not on you as a person with disability. It's on them, right? But you need to be honest and be honest with yourself of your capabilities. And I'm not pointing fingers at anybody. I'm just saying, like, I know for myself is that when I was young, I would say, oh, Brent, you can do this, push yourself. And if I could turn back the clock and go back in a time machine, there was a couple employers where I could have probably said, I need to be a little bit more adaptive, some tools here to do this part of the job. In my mind, I was like, you know what, I can do this. They knew I had a visual impairment, but I thought, I can do this part because, hey, it's easy peasy. I got to it. I'm going, hey, Brent, I need you to read this in a hurry. I couldn't do it. Like, and they're like, why can't you do that? I thought, and it came down to exactly the same thing on that one part where the employer says, why, Brent, why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't want to be treated differently. I thought maybe you wouldn't have hired me. Well, no, I hired you for who you are, your personality, who you are, not with what you can't or cannot do. And so now they had to bring in and they had to go and business expense to bring in that piece of equipment to help me do that, which cost them a lot, but they could have got it cheaper if they would have known.
It's much less of a burden. It's much less of a burden for you as an individual if you just come clean.
But one thing I did do though is I advocated even back then before I got into really major advocacy. I knew then that there was a part that I needed to change with that employer to make it good for any other employee going forward. Because they said, can you read this? And I was like, they were training me how to be a teller. Okay. And I'm not going to say the name of the restaurant because I don't want to put out there, embarrass the company. But I said, can I teach you? I said, can I teach you as an employee?
I know what the restaurant is, Brent, but I won't tell.
But so I said, can I teach you? I said, teach you as an employee how to make it better for me and for anybody else once I leave the company, how to make it better for people going forward. How? So there was, and as I'd finished going to college at the time, and I just studied this one course, and I knew, and I had some of the same equipment there. So they actually looked into it, and it cost them a nice chunk of money. They brought it forward, and they actually paid for it. They didn't want to at first. I said, well, I mean, you don't have to, but I mean, it's a business expense, but you can write it off as a business expense. It's part of doing business. They put it on there, and what it did was it enlarged. It enlarged all the print for everybody else going forward. They had it there until they did renovations, and then it went bye-bye.
Wow.
Yeah, but it worked good for a good period of time because there was some individuals who came in who even had a worse eye condition than I did, and they excelled. They moved their way up the ladder really quickly because they kept that piece of equipment. They remove the equipment. What do you got, right? So you got to keep it going. You got to keep building it, and then as they renovate, expand, you got to keep that part going because it's like taking that tool away from the person. How do you want them to succeed? I mean, give them a basic income.
If you build it, they will come.
Yeah, exactly. And building blocks, right? It's like a domino effect. It's like boom, 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 boom.
We are at the top of the hour. I don't know if you want to keep going, Lethabo. Just let you know that we are at the top of the hour, though.
Yeah, we can do it until I can say maybe 7:30.
So for another half hour or so, roughly?
Half hour.
That'd be good. Okay. Yeah, that'd be good.
That's good. Okay.
Yeah. And so Lethabo, like, getting to about accessibility wise, it is so important to have the building blocks in place and working with it, with the if it's an employer, if it's education, and teaching the institution. If it's a school, that's an institution, or if it's government, it's an institution. That's what they call in Canada here. But it's teaching them is like we are the individual. We have to teach them. We are the teachers to teach them of what we need, right? And it's all about self-advocacy, but it's saying, hey, this is what we need. Can you provide this to us so we can do better to achieve the best that we can in life.
Yeah.
And how is that in South Africa? Like, what are you hearing around the community
Well,
or cities, communities, or
okay.
in
Well, for me,
in
though,
general?
in general, okay. Well, what I can see is like there's a lot of things that I do. There's a organization that I just joined that I won't mention. Yeah, because I joined them, when was it, last year, back in September, I think on the 23rd or the 24th, I can't remember correctly. And yeah, so actually it's a organization which they usually do campaigns, like different campaigns in schools. Also, that involves sport as well. Yeah, because like they also do. I remember they were invited to this other event, I think last year, obviously, when I joined them. And they also invited me to their event, actually. Um, I think it was a men's conference. That's where I met a lot of people. I think the time it was a Sunday. Then obviously, I had to, meet a lot of people. I had to meet the executive there, because there was a lot of things that were happening, and I had to help as well wherever I can, because it's also a daycare center there. Because it's a center for like to help people with a lot of societal issues. Also, there's a daycare center as well there. Also, that's one thing I can really say on that. And there's another one that I just talked about earlier. So this one, it's more obviously of like a charity work, where obviously they deal with the same stuff that I'm talking about now, but they are more different when it comes to that. Also, it includes entertainment as well, like what I do when it comes to voice over acting, radio presenting as well. Yeah, so it's one thing obviously for sure that I do. Obviously it's one thing I want
so
to.
Have you done like hosting jobs and stuff like that? Do you host events?
No, I don't host
events.
Okay.
But
no, it's not.
There are those kind of.
Yeah,
maybe a radio show, eh?
yeah, I do a radio show, yeah.
Oh, there we go.
We're doing one right now.
Yeah, there we
go. But for me though, when I do a radio show, I just use your typical stuff like your different softwares. I used to use station playlist, but now since I can't use it because it has expired, because usually it was my favorite one because it's easy to use. And I still have the other one. I think it's Radio Boss. I still have Virtual DJ, but one, so I use those ones. But with the Virtual DJ actually needs a license to. I mean, it needs a license for me to do all my to do all my broadcasting stuff on it. So it needs that, because I mean I don't have that, so I don't know where to find a correct version of it. So it's just the original one. So it needs me to
original format.
Yeah. So that's one thing it needs me to do. But well, when it comes to like having talent, obviously, like as we do now, like podcasts. I mean, I'm so inspired by a lot of podcasters, not just here in South Africa, because usually in South Africa I just only watch one podcaster.
It's quite interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
This one you don't have to listen to it. You can actually watch it too.
Yeah.
Actually, I do watch it though.
That's the bonus part of it all. The audio or video.
Do you remember the ad that we did for you? We were doing the in September.
Oh, that one.
Do
Yeah,
you
yeah,
remember
that one.
the 25th
Yeah,
day of
I remember that
September?
one. That Zoom call
We'll
that we
be
had last
dancing
time.
the night away.
Yeah, yeah.
And September 27.
My goodness, I still remember that. You know,
It's
I
like,
can't
no,
even
it's in
forget about
April. It's
that.
like September.
Yeah.
You know, because I was just, you know, when the time when I entered, I was just so nervous, but I just thought, no, let me not be nervous about it. I mean, I'm
You
going
just
to
be
be
yourself, you know. I did that
yeah.
the same time,
So I
Lethabo.
just thought, this thing is just a light. It's just a light thing. It's not going to be
You know,
something invasive
Lethabo,
or
the
something like
first
that.
the first time that I did the podcast, right? I was like,
Yeah,
oh, you know, it's like, yeah, can I do this? Can I do this? Yeah, no, yeah, sure you can. You just be yourself and just
yeah.
go. Same as on the radio, right? I phone into local radio stations quite a bit.
Mm,
And
mm,
yeah, they know who I am and they know how much time it's going to take me to ask a question. And usually, if they put me
okay.
on, they go, "Okay, you got 30 seconds, go." And I'm like, "Boom, boom, 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 boom."
And that's hard to do. That's hard to do.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
especially,
sometimes, you know, Brent, actually I need to if I get back on radio, I need to invite you in, you know?
yeah, for sure. No, I love that. I love that.
I need to get your number on WhatsApp and
We'll do a
then
crossover
maybe
show.
Yeah,
yeah, you know,
almost.
just to have a conversation on it.
Oh yeah,
So,
no, it'd be a blast. I'm looking
yeah.
forward to that.
Yeah, you
And
know,
talk
I
about my
mean,
spaghetti and
yeah, because I mean, it's something that usually I'm passionate about. Because like, well, when it comes to like doing a radio show, for me, it's something that's, you know, it inspires me to do more. Even now, when I'm with you guys on the podcast, it's just that I just miss doing my radio show because my radio show is called All Those Dimension. So actually,
Mhm,
it was my boss. Actually, it's my boss's radio show that he did.
mhm.
So since now he's busy, he handed it over to me. So I just took
Oh
over it.
wow, nice, nice.
So,
So you
so
continue on, you carry on the throne, the torch of continuing on.
yeah,
Yeah, no, that's great. That's awesome, right? And then you can
You
kind of
said
brand how
you
you
said
yeah,
want
an interesting word there. You said something you're passionate about, and I really believe
it.
that passion is so important.
You
It
have to
gets
go with
it's something
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it gets
Because
overlooked a lot. That
yeah,
you know, some people just kind of do the job. You know, they just figure, I'll just do a job, and sometimes you kind of have to just do a job just to do it, just to make money. But it's
yeah, true.
in my mind, it's so important to find something you're passionate about and
Mm,
really connect
mm.
to it, because if you're not passionate about something, it's hard to get
some
It's
geared
hard
up
to
for
get
it.
it. Yeah,
some people
yeah.
have some people have hobbies and they enjoy you know that part of it. That hobby can actually sometimes be turned into a job. You know,
Mhm.
Yeah.
it's really turned to. So some people say, well, I enjoy fiddling around with you know, like podcasts or like interconnecting with
Yeah.
this and that, and you can turn it into something that's really as like a really good useful tool to help
Mm,
advocate. And like this, like that, like we I reached out to Neil once upon a time when we used to have it on Twitter Space, right?
sure.
And so unfortunately Twitter Space just didn't work for us going down the road.
But yeah,
So I said, well, why don't we turn, like, can we do something else? And like, yeah. So
yeah, more
how we
different. Yeah.
explained was is that the shows have always gone to YouTube, so you can always go to
Yeah.
YouTube, watch them, and so we just
Yeah.
launch it through whatever app that works good for the person. So
Mm-hmm.
we use Zoom, and then the preferred method that a lot of people love using. So that's how we do it, and so the guests come on to Zoom, it gets broadcasted onto YouTube. Now it was
At
on
the same
Twitter
time,
Space,
yeah.
but the problem from Twitter Space was the audio was just crap. Like the audio, it was just there was so many times of glitches and
Yeah.
the guests would
Yeah,
mention
yeah. I have well, I have experienced something like that before. I remember I was also on Twitter Space when they invited me on Twitter Space, but well, for me it was something that I was not even
yeah.
used to, because I mean Twitter Space is not, it's not the kind of platform that I would use. Usually
Mhm.
Zoom or Microsoft Teams. That's the one. Those are the platforms that I might use to get attention or set center of attention to that, because I mean, even for me myself, I can really say that using Zoom, I see it as as an accessible thing to do,
Mm-hmm.
just that now I haven't switched on my data, but it's still accessible, without using that. But sometimes when you have to use it, like if I can just when like say for example, if I'm going to do it like this, like if I switch it on now, it's just going to do something. Like if you would hear it, like it would just like maybe just uh I can say that it's going to interfere with whatever it is here,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, that's like exactly a good point on that. Like you can actually do other stuff in the background with it, but will it interfere with the broadcasting of what you're doing? And that's the good thing about having, if you don't have it on like video, you can have it on audio. You could be working on other things behind the scenes, but still advocating and talking about whatever the issues are of what you wanted to talk about. And like that kind of goes with my vision on how I came across what we're doing now.
True.
I approached Neil back in December of 2021. And I said like, yeah, like I have a vision of what I'd like to do, and try to bring all issues of advocacy forward of people with disabilities, or people like their allies, like people with family members who have disabilities, and just bringing everybody together. And of course,
like
everyone has
to
different
unite
views
them, though.
of different advocacy approaches, this and that. And as things evolved, I mean, we learned from each other on so many things. And I find it so rewarding that way. And that's part of
it's funny when we started too, like you said, I want to do a show, and like I said, well, sure, but I didn't really know what I was doing. We just kind of learned. We just kind of learned as we went. Because I mean, I have the technical ability, but I've never actually done a show before. But it was just kind of fun, just to kind of pick up and go.
We just kind of winged it out there, and and I used to have common music themes, like wherever the guests would come on, and I'd of course I had this one about transportation, about a transit bus. And there's just like the bus, and I'd have this one song. But now, since we now broadcast right onto YouTube, I can't do that. Well, but that's okay. I mean, I do that if we have like open mic sessions. I can do it that way because it's not recorded.
I do little 5-second snippets, like that last break-in with Brent. You notice I did the dust in the wind, because I was thinking bust in the wind. Remember, like when you were doing in the bus in the windstorm? So it was like dust in the wind. It's kind of funny.
I noticed that. That was great. And then so we can get away with little clippets here and there, and and the only other is that if I had a guest that was actually the actual author of the song, whoever made it, then if they want to sing their own song, hey, perfectly fine.
We had
no, it's great. And it's all about learning, Lethabo, of learning from each other, and about different advocacy, different types of disabilities. I guess there was definitely something else I was going to mention about. Well, you mentioned about transportation, which is one of my top parts of advocacy too, is about accessibility wise. So do they with the provide the transit there? Is it really like how frequent are the buses there? And like, do you have like bus passes, or do you pay cash fare? How does that work?
Like, is it subsidized for people with disabilities? Do they have the subsidized fare or something?
Yeah, like, do they have a pass at all, or?
Well, it depends. It depends, because usually I don't use a bus like normally. I only use it when we go to events, because when we go to events, obviously it becomes much less than when you are doing it individually.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it becomes more
a flat rate.
Yeah. Yeah. So it becomes more or less than before because, like, let's say, for example, you come to South Africa and then, okay, you say that, okay, you want to use a transportation of that sort. Then it's something else that you have to figure out. Like, how will you use the transportation? Like, for example, if you come to Pretoria, you would get a bus that's branded City of Tshwane. You would get that, and those buses though are much accessible. When it comes to wheelchairs, it is accessible. The flooring, it's lower than your standard typical buses. I mean, like, when it comes to buses though, like, the accessibility, it is 100%. But when it comes to taxis, it's something else. It is something else. So that's one thing I can really say on that.
We only have about 10 minutes left. When we kind of just brushed over this really fast, I don't know if we have enough time, but I wanted to get back to if there is any kind of social housing in South Africa. Do you have any subsidized housing for people with disabilities, or how does the housing work over there?
Well, when it comes to social housing, I don't have any info about it because that is one thing that I'm not too sure about. But the only thing that I know is, like, when it comes to financial aid, that's one thing I know for sure. But when it comes to financial housing, I'm not too sure about it because I'm not familiar with it. Okay. I don't have a friend who is benefiting from like financial housing or something. I mean, from social housing or something like that.
So for the most part, you think most people with disabilities kind of just make do with market housing and basically live with family or whatever, or make do with what however they can make out, right?
Yeah, it is a huge financialization in the market housing, indeed.
Yeah, true.
It'd be interesting, to maybe do another segment with you on that. Coming up, and I'd like to talk more about housing stuff. I'd be intrigued to hear and talk about the transportation and the housing and accessibility. Definitely. Was there any questions?
But will come soon.
Just a lot of people saying, they're just sitting back and enjoying the conversation. Not a lot of questions.
Oh good.
Okay.
But yeah, there seems like everybody's enjoying themselves. So.
Oh no, that's great. I mean, everyone watching live now. I mean, it's I'm glad you're enjoying our segment with Lethabo, and I'm gonna have Lethabo if Lethabo wants to come on. If you want to come back as another segment, and we'll be more happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always nice to go global.
It is. Out to South Africa. I mean, wow. I mean, we started out Lethabo as just within Canada, and then I realize it's not just within Canada. This is this affects all the way around the whole global. I mean, it's not just within Canada. Okay, well, no, it's the people here. Now that's it. No, it affects everybody's lives around the world.
True.
Reaching out beyond the stars around the world. Bring everybody in.
Touching me, touching you.
Touching hands, reaching out, reaching out,
touching hands, reaching out.
Yeah.
I used to like Neil Diamond all the time, only because he had shared my first name.
Oh yes.
That was one of the first records I ever made my parents buy me, was a Neil Diamond record.
I remember during beginning of COVID, there the Neil Diamond had put a video out, and he was playing his song, and it was like really good.
Oh yeah.
So basically, when it comes down to having celebrities on, having guests on, it's always great hearing different people's different approaches on their personal experiences of what they want to see vision-wise, of changes, of it doesn't matter what it is. It's always great. And having you joining us today, Lethabo, is wow. It is so amazing. It's awesome. And I want to thank you, for coming on. And do you have any ending comments for today's segment? And then we'll reach out and we'll make arrangements having you back on.
Yeah. Well, for me, my comment is I just want to say that thanks to everyone who was live streaming it all over the world, including here in Africa, but I don't know if they are. But just want to say that. Actually, I just want to say it in my language, then I will translate it after. Just want to say, obviously for this live stream. So I just want to say that I love everybody else, who was watching it around the world, and it's something that we have to unpack, when it comes to different disabilities, whether it's cerebral palsy, if it is blindness or any other disabilities. We have to at least do it in the rightful manner, and to let people know that we still are we still also motivated with what we do.
And thank you very much on that. Nicely said. I couldn't even said it any better than that. I mean, there's so many people that have different types of different disabilities. They're either born with disability, they're going to develop more disabilities in their life, and as they get older, it's going to amplify. But working with the disability and having the tools, that are there, either financial aids that are going to help the person, or physical, and or both. Like, I mean, it's not actually you say or both. Like, I mean, it's all in one, right? And having invisible disabilities too. Like, there's people who have invisible disabilities. They'll say, true, like perfectly fine. Really? Are you that person? So that'll be another thing that we'll dive into on the next segment for sure.
For sure.
I guess on my closing statement, before I pass it over to Neil, is learning from other self-advocates with people with disabilities. They're being blind or visually impaired, partially sighted. There's so many different ways of the terminology on how it's worded.
True.
Without singling out people, it's all about awareness of working with that individual, working with the community at large, and not just one size fits all. You have to you have to basically accommodate in so many ways, and understanding of maybe the severity of their disability of it. If it's visual impairment, if it's blind or partially sighted, can we work with that individual based on whatever it may be? Yes, no. I mean, it depends on that person, right? So, and just understanding of what they're going through. Of do they need a service dog? Do they need a identification cane? How tall are they? How high is that cane need to be based on their height? So, and I've learned a lot of that is go on, because I have an identification cane. And there's areas where I should be using it more. Shame, right? There's areas where it's perfectly fine, but I do carry it with me. I do carry it with me when I'm on one of my breaking with Brent segments, if I'm on a bus, because if I'm in a busy intersection, like a lot of traffic, and it says beep beep, like the sign, the walk signal says bloop 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 bloop, walk, right? I should be getting it out and putting it out there. Whoa, hey, well, hang on. It's like, get my stick.
Did I tell you about that one time that it was in the middle of a snowstorm, and there was lots of snow on this was like quite a few years ago, but I was in the middle of the snowstorm, and there was lots of snow on the ground, and it was just back when I lived in Burnaby, and it was a major intersection, and I was crossing the street, and all of a sudden I just went splat with I was on crutches and
Oh,
I was
God.
like flat on the ground, all the snow and ice and everything, and all these cars, they didn't stop. They just once started to drive around me, and finally there was one guy with a car that got out of his car and he started honking. He got out of his car and was like getting me up, like standing me up. And I got out of the way, but all these cars, like there was like probably like 6 or 7 cars that were like driving around me before this guy was like really mad. He's like honking. He's like, stop. And he got out of his car and he's like getting me off the ground. It was crazy. I couldn't believe it.
I remember a time in a snowstorm. It was in Nanaimo, and it was so thick snow. Like, I mean, I'm just booting along. You couldn't even see the sidewalks. Because it was so full of snow, you couldn't see. The road was literally covered and in the same height as the sidewalk was. So it looked like it was straight across. So you didn't know when it was going to drop off. Also, just walk along, also just boosh right onto the road. And guess what? I went. It's like it was like the sled myself, right? Down I went. And Sonia was right there. She went. And people, same thing, Neil. And Lethabo, people were just driving by, just not too many vehicles. And it's like, okay, nobody's going to stop. I'm thinking, wow. So I get up, and I didn't hurt myself. I thought it was actually because I landed right into all the snow. But I thought, wow, are you serious? Like, nobody's going to stop.
And all these cars are like fishtailing. I mean, like, because it was like all the snow. So they're like driving around me, but they're like fishtailing like this. And I'm like, wow, crazy.
And I felt bad for some seniors, right? Because because the city didn't shovel the sidewalks. And that's really bad about snow around the bus awnings. Of course, the word shelter. Another segment altogether. I'll be diving into that. But, my explanation on that. But so Neil, I'm going to pass the mic over to you. But Lethabo, I want to thank you. At the end of the segment, you won't hear any singing because it'll be the ending our theme. But please stay on the call here, and then we'll have a brief discussion. And but I just want to say thank you so much, and thank you everyone for tuning in. Handing the mic over to Neil for any comments, and stay tuned for any upcoming episodes, which will be coming up soon. Just a brief programming announcement for myself. So there's going to be a new segment coming up very soon. I'm going to be launching it, not saying when, but very soon. And it's called Coffee Time with Brent. And so that's going to be a neat little twist on it. So something a little bit different. And then stay tuned for Breaking with Brent, ongoing segments with those adventures. I recently made a little voyage over to Salt Spring Island, so working on some clippage with that. I did miss out on one. I'll give you a little sneak peek. I missed it, but I'm gonna try to get the footage on it again. There was some seagulls that went by. I had a sandwich right there, and somehow they came by, and this seagull came by and grabbed the whole sandwich.
Wow!
My goodness! They picked it up, and they were all like little black seagulls came by. And then this monster seagull, this white one.
Wow!
I'm like, well, this was the Mother Nature one. Okay, he just came in, it's huge. Came in, grabbed it in its mouth.
Wow!
And I didn't have time to grab it and then film. I was like, oh man! So he goes, why didn't you film it? And we had some friends over from Manitoba. They had moved to BC, to Victoria, BC. They're going to be moving back to Manitoba in September. So they have never gone to Salt Spring. So we took them over. They were just laughing. And I said to them at the time, this would have been a great Breaking with Brent. So I'm going to try to recap that segment a little bit when I can.
A recreation.
Yes. I got other footage. I'm going to put it with it. But everybody would have been just roaring laughing because the seagull just comes it. I picked it up and started flying away. What the hell?
Funny.
But so that's the upcoming segments with Breaking with Brent. The other upcoming guests.
I love those segments though.
Oh,
I love those segments though. Like I watch them like almost every time when it comes out.
Did you like the one on there was a bus voyage journey, and it just kept on going, and all you see was the journey of the bus. That was
yeah. And I also saw the other one where you what do you call this? When you said you got new glasses, I was like, hey,
yeah. And these are my new glasses, eh? These are my new ones.
I see that. I see that because that was the last one that I saw when you said that you got new glasses. I can't remember which optical store was it?
Space
Safe. Is it?
Oh,
is it
one before, right? The one before, yeah.
Yeah. These are from New Look Eyewear. These are
New
Look
Eyewear. Yeah, that's the one that I'm looking.
And I'm gonna look at getting them as a sponsor because they like to promote your glasses because hey, they fit great, they feel good, and the sun doesn't actually hurt my eyes now because now they got transitioned. So they always say don't look at the sun anyway, right? So which I never do, but so we had a solar eclipse one time when I was a kid. And they're like, don't look at the sun.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm gonna pass the mic over to you, Neil. But stay tuned for upcoming guests. Subscribe to Neil's YouTube channel. Very important to keep up to date on all the upcoming segments of Breaking with Brent and the new segment of Coffee Time with Brent. Stay tuned for that.
I'm not sure. We haven't really decided who our next guest is going to be yet, so it'll be a surprise because we haven't really nailed that down yet. So that's why everybody should subscribe and share and like the videos so you'll stay up to date. I just wanted to say it was a really good segment, Lethabo, to have you on. And one of the big takeaways for me, I think, is I think it's really important that we all advocate for ourselves as much as possible, and also just be honest with ourselves and our disability, and not try to hide our disability, because I think if you try to hide it, it's can be more of a burden, more of an issue for you as a person to have to carry that and just try to hide it. I don't think that's very healthy. So it's much better to be honest with yourself and just be upfront and honest. Yeah. But yeah, it was a great segment. So thanks, everyone.
Great. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And for anyone who's actually had sent me some messages before we sign off here about calling in to the show, that's going to be something that's going to be coming up soon. So stay tuned. Have to figure out just a couple technical issues regarding something with it. So once that's done, that's going to be really exciting. That's going to be awesome as a huge add-on to our show. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. Yeah,
okay, thanks.
Fun times. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in.
Thanks, everyone.
And